The next thing we'll move into, and Soapy, this is right up your alley. Pistons free agency. Like, this is the time I'm going to let you go first. This is basically just the moves that they have made. So they brought in Mason Plumlee. They've brought in Jeremy Grant. Let's see, looking at the depth chart.
Just read the roster. It's a work of art.
Right now, the starting lineup, and this is ESPN's depth chart, has Derrick Rose, Delon Wright, Jeremy Grant, Blake Griffin, and Plumlee. Obviously, Killian Hayes and Isaiah Stewart from the draft. Seku's still on the team. They signed Wayne Ellington that happened before we started the show. Zana Musa came in from a trade with the Nets. They've signed Josh Jackson to bring him in. Jahlil Okafor, another center. What is that?
You forgot our other draft boy.
Saddiq Bey. Saddiq Bey.
Yes.
Basically, but from free agency, Plumlee, Okafor, Josh Jackson's another, he's a wing, not a big. I'm trying to think, wasn't there another big? Is Grant the other big?
He's a Grant count.
Okay.
Yeah, Grant counts as a big, kind of. Because he can play the 4. So
I mean, they got him second unit as a 4. But Soapy, you're the Pistons fan. For those of you who don't know, how should Piston fans speak for all Detroit Piston fans? Soapy, how should they feel about this free agency for D-Town?
See, dude, it's tough, and I do want to address the one thing. It's been bugging the absolute hell out of me. Stop saying we didn't try to sign Christian Wood. If he wanted to come back, he would have came back. What a shocker. If the man went on Instagram Live and asked people, hey, where should I play? Does that not show he probably doesn't want to be here? Trust me, dude, I would have loved Christian Wood to have been back. Don't get me wrong. I basically turned into the biggest Christian Wood hater overnight. But it's one of those things of, I don't get why fans don't realize he probably didn't want to come back. Because he, on Twitter, even months before, he had been talking about he wants to play for a winner. He wants to win. He wants to contribute to winning. We suck. We're not gonna be winning. I don't see why that wasn't already in the wing for people of being like, okay, he's not coming back.
You have entered.
It was wishful thinking on my part. Yeah. Well, we'll start to rebuild.
Yeah.
We're in the same phase we were before from the early 2000s of where we try to compete still, but we're garbage.
But here's the thing, and I'm just going to throw this out, and this is why I think it's different this time with Detroit. I don't think Detroit is trying to compete. I think Detroit is doing, and Dave, I think I was talking to you about this, they're just basically throwing shit at the wall, saying, we're going to bring in all these different veterans. Don't care what position they play. Fuck it. 4 bigs, 5 bigs, a million bigs. Don't give a shit. We're just going to throw contracts out there because they're not bad contracts to where it's like, wow, why? It's not, no Timothy Mozgov contracts have been handed out by the Pistons, but they're bringing in enough guys to where it's like, okay, if they play up and have value, we can flip them for something. Or, they've got value, they can be a veteran leader on this team as we are going through a rebuild. Like, I look at people ragging on the Pistons offseason, and I'm for one on the outside, a Bulls fan, looking at it going, I don't think the Pistons are having that bad of an offseason. Like, at least you got something for Christian Wood and didn't just let him walk. Looks at Danny Ainge. Dave,
we gotta fit some slander in.
I'm trying not to. Can I have a day this week without going on a Celtics rant, man?
I gotta throw it out there because it's true. You can avoid your rant. That's not what I meant to throw out there.
This is a hybrid approach, I believe. This is the half New York Knicks answer of last year was just sign a bunch of guys to contracts, see who's valuable by midseason, move them for more picks. We are rotating through. We're churning through the idea of if you get enough players on your team, you'll find the ones that fit eventually. This is very much a. I wonder, I'll have to go through the front office trees if if the Detroit Pistons GM, Soapy, you may or may not know, was a disciple in the Sam Hinkie or the Presti tree. Because I would not be shocked to see him from either one of those. I want to say Presti. He had some kind of tie, maybe to Presti.
Talking about Weaver?
Yeah, he may. Because I know he came from Denver. That's about as far as I know. But if either of those are connected that way.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think there are a lot of guys on this team who are valued across the league, and I would not be surprised if they can continue to show they're healthy and able players that they will be moved on from for new picks and new guys to try out. The only thing I was kind of shocked by was oh,
You're spot on, Dave. I'm looking here from the article the Pistons put out when they hired Weaver.
Yep.
Weaver, 52, joins the Pistons after spending the past 12 seasons with the Oklahoma City Thunder, including the last 3+ years as the club's vice president of basketball operations. Previously, he had served 8 seasons as vice president and assistant general manager with responsibilities that included coordinating player personnel matters, NBA draft preparation, free agent planning, and summer league roster construction. Weaver has been a critical part in the Thunder's success.
Yeah, love it. And it tells a lot of the story of like where he's coming from a like game plan standpoint of like, I've got a roster that I need to work over. I need to expose myself to expose this team to as many players as possible to find out who really kind of sifts through the mess. And that's the guys you can move on from, the guys who stick it out, happy to work, hard workers, guys who are going to fight for those minutes. That's the guys you want on this team long term. Very much a trust the process almost. Somewhere between the process, OKC, the Knicks, like all of these teams have had different iterations of this. And it feels like a hybrid approach of like, hey, he's learned his lessons from those teams. Like you said, the contracts, there are no Mozgovs here, but there are some big contracts that are still on the books. So we'll see what happens. The one I did say I was surprised about was the waiving of Zaire Smith. I know they picked him up via trade. I was kind of like, cool. I will continue to root for Zaire Smith. He's had an incredibly tough life in the past 3 years, and I wish the best for him. And I hope he gets a chance to play basketball professionally again. He's working his ass off to get back into elite shape again. But like, I figured he would have been a guy who would have got some run time with this team. Maybe it's just kind of like a friendly, like, hey, you can go find a spot because we don't have minutes for you kind of a situation. But yeah, I think that, we're all looking at this roster going like, Derek long-term, who knows? Like this year, sure. Next year, who knows? He's got the deal. We can trade him if there's a great deal for him. Blake, would love to see him healthy. If he's healthy, he's a top player in the league, and someone might want that for value. Let's flip him. Jeremy Grant, we heard the promise of. He took this Detroit deal on a bigger role on the team, which means he's not the 7th option, which means I expect to see him to get a serious amount of playing time and some highlights in this offense. Really like that. And again, they killed it in the draft. Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey was a wonderful 1-2 pickup. I think they made a lot of really smart moves. Even the backup guys who they brought in, like I low-key still really like Zan and Musa. A couple of years ago, Hawks officially signed Gal. Oh, great for them. But yeah, I really like Zan and Musa. I think long-term he's got potential to be a sharpshooter off the bench, smart player from Europe. But yeah, like people want to be like, oh, it's dumb roster. The only thing I didn't like was the Isaiah Stewart move. But we'll have to see. I think Ja gets another chance to play.
If you're entering a rebuild, it's not a bad. Like, that's the thing where it's like, when they made it, I was also with you, like, oh, I wouldn't have made it there. But like, after seeing the moves that they have made, trading Kennard, bringing in all these veterans of like a kind of prove it kind of deals, to where I'm like, they are entering a rebuild. That's why, like, I look at it and like, Soapy, I'll ask you. Dave mentioned Blake Griffin. Derrick Rose is another one. Like, when's the clock moving for like those deals to be done? Because I think they get done. Real
quick, I want to jump in here because I don't know if they're rebuilding.
Okay. I think they are. I think they're entering a rebuild.
This feels like that retool bullshit word that I hate so much, because Detroit, one of the things that, and again, I don't know like how much ownership has changed over the past couple of years, but one of the things I had always heard was, and this was from like when they first went and made the Blake deal, was they would rather have a shot in the playoffs every year rather than being a top contender or being a rebuilding like bottom guy. Like they're happy to collect the extra pay from being a playoff team. And I think that this is one of those things where it's like, if everything goes right, this is a team who could contend in the playoffs in the East.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything would have to go right. But like they literally healthy Derrick Rose, healthy Blake Griffin, Jeremy Grant, Delon Wright, like these are not bad players. These are guys who are all very good at the game. So I think this is it's a 50-50. It's everything goes right, they can go for a playoff run. Everything goes wrong, well, obviously it's a rebuild now, and you look at your options and move on.
I mean, it depends. To me, the big thing is the only reason why I say enter a rebuild is you fucking traded Luke Kennard, and he would have been somebody to.
Luke Kennard, they don't want to pay him.
Well, it's not just the paying him, but like if your goal was to make the playoffs, for sure, you keep Luke Kennard on this team. Why? And like for me, I think that they're a better team with Luke Kennard. Am I wrong?
They got back Sadiq Bey and what was the other piece out of that deal? Zaman Musa, I think, from that deal, right?
I think so. But like even those two guys, like I think Kennard helps you more make the playoffs. If you're looking to make the playoffs this year and retool,
not paying Luke Kennard allowed them to go make that play on Jeremy Grant. It allowed them to go get Plumlee. It allowed them to go make moves happen. Delon Wright, another great low pickup. I don't think that he's better than Jeremy. I keep confusing the Grants.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from.
Jeremy Grant and Plumlee solve a lot more problems than Luke Kennard. I think you're overvaluing our love for Luke Kennard for his impact on a team.
I get where you're coming from, where you're like the ownership wants to make it in Soapy. Maybe you as a Pistons fan, give us yours too. But like for me, I look at it and I go, the whole thing of, oh, we want to make the playoffs, we want to compete because we don't want to be a bad team. To me, it doesn't matter what the ownership wants. They hired Tom Weaver. Tom Weaver's in charge of this. To where it's like, with his past 12 years in OKC, has OKC necessarily like, yeah, I know there was like this year where they actually competed, but they had a Chris Paul. I think Blake Griffin is on the move. I think it's not tomorrow, but I think this year by the trade deadline, Blake is on the move. Like the wait and see if we can compete is like the little bit of the beginning of this season. It ain't going to pan out. And Tom Weaver, I think, is going to hit the button and say, I can't pass on this draft class. I cannot pass on having, and I know people say, oh, this next draft class is supposed to be the deepest draft class that we've ever seen. So maybe that plays into, hey, we can make the playoffs and still get someone. But I'm sorry, if I have a chance to get one of the top guys in this upcoming draft of what we're already seeing now, I don't want to miss on that. I don't. I don't want to miss on it at all. And I feel like that the Pistons, in my mind, are entering a rebuild. Soaps, what do you think?
I want us to enter a rebuild, but I will go on record right now and say Tom Gores is the worst owner in the NBA. He will not let this team be bad. And the main reason why I don't think Blake's on the move this year, as much as I want him to, as much as a lot of Pistons fans want him to, because that's a lot of contract that's being eaten up by a player who literally sat out 99% of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that recently the Pistons moved into a new arena, the fact that Tom Gores has gone on record and said we want to compete, it pains me as a Pistons fan to say, obviously we traded my boy Luke Kennard. I still cry about it. I still have the screenshot saved to when his bio on Twitter said Detroit Pistons. I still cry about it. But it pains me to say we're just going to be retooling. We're going to probably aim for a player in this class, but it's one of those things that a lot of people forget. If Griffin was healthy, we would have been trying to compete. That's the whole thing. We view this team differently because we didn't see Blake for 90% of the year, and when we saw him, he sucked. I think it's one of those things with all the moves we're making. Obviously, we may be trying to get draft capital back, but once again, I don't think we're going to get enough back for someone like an upper pick. Obviously, we're probably just going to suck enough to get up there by ourselves, but I more or less think Rose is here to stay because he's gone on record before saying, he doesn't want to keep moving around. He doesn't basically want to be a journeyman. So if Rose wants to stay, I'm A-okay with him mentoring Killian Hayes. I'm fucking all for it. If I get Killian Hayes to be mentored by a former MVP, God bless. Because I hope to God Killian Hayes pans out. I'm fine with Isaiah Stewart. he's gonna need to grow on me a little bit. Like, it's one of those things where I think it's more or less just, once again, another project. If he pans out, cool. If he doesn't, obviously, we could have taken someone else there, which, if like so many people after him pan out, I think that's going to be something that is going to be incredibly valuable. And, especially sad for Pistons fans, because then we're going to have another situation of like, wow, you guys took Isaiah Stewart over this player. Yeah, we're going to have basically Luke Kennard 2.0. But, sorry, I got to get all this shit out. It's been built up over days.
Get it all out, man. Get on the soapbox, no pun intended, and get it all out.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't think anyone's brought up Saban Lee yet, our second-round draft pick. I think he may be the reason why Zaire Smith got waived. I think it's one of those things, they may have a lot of faith in him, especially after going back and watching some stuff in college. That man could score. Like, I think it's one of those things of, we may be hoping he's a diamond in the rough for us. I want this team to rebuild. I know Troy Weaver, Tom Gore's never going to watch this. Please, for the love of God, just rebuild this team. We suck. Pistons fans don't want to be stuck in mediocrity. We want to go back to the days when we were actually good. I don't want to sit through another fucking Josh Smith, Greg Monroe Drummond lineup. None of us want to. Hell, that happened in my lifetime. I don't want it twice. No one deserves to experience that lineup again. But I think I want Blake to be moved. It's probably not going to happen, though, because if Blake comes back healthy, you bet we're trying to compete for the 8th seed, then get swept, and then get a 15th pick and miss on that one, too. But I'm fine with this offseason. I think it hasn't been bad. We've gotten a lot of good signings. I think Wayne Ellington also recently signed with us as well. I think it's a really good low-key sign-up. I think it's bringing in a lot of these veterans are also people who could work with our young guys. Obviously, D. Rose with Killian Hayes. I think Saban Lee can learn from players like Wayne Ellington. And obviously, I'm not trying to say like, oh, they're going to make Saban Lee a GOAT, or Killian Hayes is going to become the greatest because of that. But I think it's having these veteran players work alongside our young, new people is something that is really going to be valuable, especially with, I think you have so many different centers that Stewart can bounce things off of. Each of them having different types of experience of where, for instance, Plumlee kind of fits what he could be defensively. Obviously, that sounds bad, but like Plumlee's kind of that, like, I'm just going to put my body in the way guy. Where, like, I think we've seen people dunk on Plumlee a lot. So it's one of those things where he puts his body on the line. I think with Ja, he kind of has a similar offensive game as Stewart, so he can mentor him in that way. I think that's more of what they're going for with a lot of the centers, as well as having just be like, hey, they get traded. It's more of Stewart is able to learn underneath these players who are similar to him in the way of, like, they can tell him, like, hey, listen, like, this is where you should be on the court. This is, Jahlil Okafor is the fucking old man of the NBA at, like, 23. But having that sort of player that can teach you that offensive system and how it works in today's NBA, I think can help him, especially, Stewart does have potential to have a mid-range, potentially a 3 at some point. Who knows? Hopefully it happens. But I don't hate this offseason. I think it's more or less of, I want to see where this team goes forward. I honestly also will go on a record, Tom Gores, please sell this fucking team. Like, we memed the ever-living hell out of James Dolan. Mm-hmm. I'd have James Dolan a million times over one of our Gores.
I was just going to
say... not say things we can't take back here.
Oh, no. I'm keeping that. I stand by that. First episode on the podcast where I'm the third man, I'll say it right now. Tom Gores is the worst owner in the NBA.
You were on the Discord, Mock. This is episode 2.
Yeah, I know, but...
It's kind of a one-off thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he was talking basketball with us.
Yeah, it's just, I want that to be known of sort of, and I don't want to compare it to the same situation Bulls fans were going through, because it's not the exact same.
We were held hostage there for like 20 fucking years.
I was even going to say, when you brought up D Rose, I was like, my first thought was, Bulls fans, don't get mad at Soaps, because I know there's a huge movement to get D Rose back in Chicago.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, just the main reason why, and I want to almost use this as a way of, like, people pay attention to how shitty of an order Tom Gores is, because he's gonna fuck this team up. As a Pistons fan, it is sad that I have to literally look at the fact that obviously, Drummond's trade value wasn't that high to begin with. He refused to move Drummond when we found out we could not win with him. He forced Van Gundy to trade for Blake when Van Gundy has said he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
It is literally the fact Tom Gores is incompetent. He doesn't understand the roster we have cannot compete. It's one of those things that, like, I'm not saying, like, oh, do, like, a fire guard packs situation, but more or less of, like, because Tom Gores ain't selling this fucking team. I'm stuck in mediocrity till Tom Gores dies or sells the team. But it's literally just Pistons fans, we gotta just ride it out. We gotta be sad that we're probably about to waste Killian Hayes and trade him for a bag of chips and go back into being a shit team afterwards. Sorry, rant over.
So, Dave, any final thoughts before we move on?
Just gonna toss out there if Isaiah Stewart is your Luke Kennard again, Alexei Pokusevsky was drafted right after him.
Damn, dude. 2 projects back to back, baby. Let's go.
I'm just saying, like, that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's painful.
Because if he hits, oh, good God.